Vanakkam and good morning everyone. Welcome to 2019 Hyundai Strategy Conference. I wish a very happy, healthy, peaceful and prosperous new year to each one of you and your family members. It's my honor more than a pleasure to welcome our Managing Director, Mr. S.S. Kim, and respect. It's an amazing feeling to be here in Chennai, the home of state-of-the-art manufacturing of Hyundai Motor India. It has been really amazing and brilliant 22 years in India automobile market. A journey realized through our unwavering commitment, our dedication, our passion, and our ability to do amazing things together. Thank you everyone, because it was your hard work that has made Hyundai the fastest growing brand in India. Please give yourselves a big round of applause. Every year, we host Hyundai Strategy Conference to bring together all the leaders of HMI on our collective vision of HMI Annual Conference. A platform to share 2019 key strategy across all divisions of HMI. In 2018, we successfully launched 3 modern premium products and celebrated the rebirth of India's favorite family car, the all-new Santro. Factory seamlessly operated at 100% production capacity, supported by finance, administration, procurement, quality, corporate affairs, and each and every employee of Hyundai Motor India Limited. To revisit all these memories and celebrations, let's present a quick recap of our amazing journey of HMI 2018. Thanks everyone. I think 2018 has been a good year and full of achievements and lot of celebrations. I'm sure 2019 will be much bigger and years to come. Further, to enlighten our journey ahead into 2019 with the lamp lighting ceremony, may I invite respected division heads and unit heads on the stage, please. Mr. Diazon, Executive Director, Mr. Ganesh Mani, Senior Vice President, on the stage, sir, please, for the lamp lighting. Mr. S.J. Ha, Senior Director, Mr. Pune Madam, Mr. Vikas Jain, Mr. K.Y. and Mr. Muralidharan, Mr. S.M. Zon and Venkatesh Kumar, Mr. Y.J. An and Mr. B.C. Datta, Mr. H.Y. John, please, Mr. J.H. Yu, Senior Director, Mr. Stephen Sudhakar, Mr. C.H. Park, and Mr. Ramesh, Assistant Vice President, Mr. G.H. Beck, and Mr. G.H. Kim. May I now invite our Honorable Managing Director, Mr. S.S. Kim, on the stage for lamp lighting ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for everyone. May I request you to light the lamp and inaugurate 2019 HMI Strategy Conference. Thank you, Adisa. May I request production, sales, procurement and quality divisions to light the lamp together. Production, sales, procurement and quality divisions. Now may I request administration, finance, corporate planning, corporate affairs, R&D and CCI to light the lamp together. With this lamp lighting, we'd like to thank the Almighty for blessing us, and let us all wish for more and more success for HMI in 2019. Let's have a group photo. May I request our Honorable Managing Director, Mrs. S.S. Kim, to present the welcome keynote address and request other dignitaries to take their seats. May I request MD sir to.
Welcome to all. Very good morning. Happy and prosperous New Year. Congratulations on creating success for HMI in 2018. I would like to begin by wishing each one of you present here a very happy and prosperous New Year. And once again, congratulations on creating success for HMI in 2018. 2018 has been a year of achievement for Hyundai Motor India. We exceeded our production target of 7 lakh units, touching an all-time high of 7.13 lakh units. Our sales achieved 7.1 lakh units, with highest over domestic sales of 5.5 lakh units, capturing 16.3% of dynamic Indian market, and export stood at healthy 1.6 lakh units. I once again appreciate all of your sincere effort and dedication to achieve this milestone in 2018. Moving forward, 2019 will be more challenging due to the shift in automotive landscape, with multiple global OEMs entering into the Indian market. We are witnessing customer preference shifting toward larger, more comfortable cars loaded with connected technology, and government encouraging cleaner fuel options. Thus, shared, connected, zero-emission mobility would be the future of the auto industry. HMI, being a technology and innovation-driven company, is well positioned to lead India's future mobility. We have set our operational target for 2019 production and sales at 7.44 lakh units, with 5.8 lakh for domestic and 1.64 lakh for export. Starting with our business slogan, Connect 2019, powering intelligence and technology for next generation, we have aligned our 2019 business plan with dynamic market scenarios, and will be introducing new product portfolio, QXi, OSEV, and AI3, which will help us cater to different customer layers of the evolving market. OSEV could prove as a great weapon for Hyundai brand awareness and great opportunity to be the leader in eco-friendly vehicles. Capitalizing on OS brand image will positively influence on our existing portfolio as well. Creative and innovative idea generation to focus on improving basic element of existing systems by critically examining the current practice will help us face and successfully overcome the coming challenges. Thus, upgrading is the key. Proactive marketing, big data analysis, telematics are very essential to deliver better customer value and satisfaction. We should adopt industrial IoT along with principle of Industry 4.0 to build a strong framework for smart factory, paving way to a fully integrated, flexible manufacturing system, which will improve operational efficiency and strengthen our adaptability to the changing needs of the market. Meanwhile, we should focus on localization and cost-saving activities without any compromise in safety and quality, which will provide lasting benefit to customer, employee, organization, and the community at large. I encourage all employees to participate and make full use of this opportunity in the context of new age industry requirement. Organized workforce is the key to successful operation. We should review our communication strategy to inculcate the culture of open innovation and bring new organization structure considering all the challenges in the future. We should also create an atmosphere to accommodate next generation talent who are highly capable. India is the #1 test market for HMC. Conditions are perfect to test in India market. Our responsibility is to make sustainable success. The future success story of HMI company can be the direction for our other overseas companies. It's a great opportunity for all of us. 2019 will be another year of challenges and opportunities, and I strongly believe if we prepare well and be proactive in many areas, we can showcase a great performance. Our first step forward, have a totally different mindset and focus on process innovation. Second step, implementation is key. Third step, we should be more healthier and more competitive. I strongly urge all divisions across HMI and business partners to align their strategies toward future HMI business goal as a joint synergy effort. Dear my best friend, let us work toward making Hyundai as the brand of choice for India by offering higher values beyond customers' expectation. I once again wish you and your family a very happy New Year with good health and happiness. Together, let's work toward creating a new era of success. Thank you. Nandi.
And encouraging words. We are confident that with your strong motivation, guidance and leadership, we will be able to achieve 7.44 lakhs production, 7.44 lakh sales and beyond, along with many other milestone achievements in 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, a foresight on India's economy is an important aspect for growth of HMI business. May I invite Mr. Anand S., Vice President, Frost & Sullivan, to share insights on 2019 India economy outlook. Let's welcome Mr. Anand with a big round of applause, please.
So good morning, everybody. A very, very happy New Year to everybody. I would like to congratulate Hyundai Motor India for a phenomenal performance that was just displayed in the video and covered by the Managing Director here. So it is very heartwarming to see the excellent results that you have posted. A couple of things out there. I saw that your institutional sales have gone up by 30%, and I can tell you Frost & Sullivan has got some Hyundai cars for our employees. So it's reflected in your books there. And the focus is mainly on innovation is what I get to hear from the presentation. So today I hope not to bore you, and it's good that I have a session early in the morning just to keep your attention on the different innovative things that are happening around us and how it's likely to have an impact in the Indian economy and what specifically are the takeoff that Hyundai can look into in the future. So today, you will be looking up at an outlook of disruptive technologies, its impact, the amount of disruption that it's leading to, the convergence of technologies, and its impact on the future. So we are looking up at three broad themes today. We are living in an innovative world. There is constant change that's happening around us. That is leading to a lot of disruptions. That is leading to collapse of certain industries and then beginning to transform many industries into better firms. So basically, you will be hearing about all of this in today's presentation. That said, I have to briefly tell you about what Frost & Sullivan does. Many people, of course, are aware about what we do. We've been in the business of information research for about 57 years. Our analysts around the world, almost about 1,800 of them, provide market analysis as well as potential forecasts related to different industries by contributing to two main objectives that is of relevance to you. One is a growth opportunity. We are living in a world to figure out what are the growth opportunities that are available for organizations, for firms, for startups, for government. And two, most important, is to look up at companies to action. Basically looking up at ideas that could become blockbuster companies in the future. And all of this is relevant to all of you out here simply because we are living in a transformational world. We write close to about 2,000 reports annually. So there is a very strong foundation of work that we have already done related to different areas. As a result of that particular foundation, we are able to work on bespoke projects with clients like you and also predict what are the technologies that are likely to have an impact on the future. So whatever data that we gather are curated information that is available. That said, we do both content as well as consulting. And in our research, we have found that most of the innovations happen across the 9 clusters that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. We believe that 90% of the global developments related to innovations that are happening around the world occurs across these 9 technology clusters. All of them, or many of them, are relevant to you. But in the future, everything is going to be relevant to you because we see the coming together of automation companies, ICT companies, energy companies working together for a particular solution. So chemicals and advanced material is important, sensors and instrumentation is important, microelectronics is important, information communication technology is important, energy and utility is important, environment and sustainability is important. So all of these clusters together contribute a major chunk of innovation investment that is happening around the world. And whatever developments happen around those nicely go into different vertical markets that would include agriculture, mobility, manufacturing 4.0, process control, consumer electronics, etc. So we see an entire gamut of innovation that finds its application related to each of this particular space. So how do we go about defining this particular development? So what you see in this particular slide is what we call as the innovation engine kaleidoscope. Now this is a very important framework, and this is the framework that we urge organizations like yours to take up to start implementing new strategies and new programs and new product development that is going to be the need or the demand for the future. So what you see here on the outermost circle of this kaleidoscope is the 9 clusters that have all the technology development that is happening around it. Now, when there is a push to develop innovative solutions and developments associated with within these clusters, you see that there is a trend that is happening associated with it. What is it? In Frost, we call it as the mega trends, macroeconomic forces that have an impact on our life, on our businesses. Some of the mega trends that you see is urbanization. Increasingly, we are seeing more and more people coming from rural places to urban places. So cities could soon become an economic hub of activities. We see smart as the new green, right? More and more products are getting smarter and smarter. We see innovating to zero as a concept. Zero defects, zero rejects, zero defects per million products produced, zero fatalities, and for the mobility sector it is zero emissions. Right? We are all talking about all of those sectors. As a result of this particular change that is happening related to different trends that we are seeing, it is changing the entire business model. So we need to come out with newer strategies that foresees the challenge that we are going to face to evolve with newer business models. So these business models, of course, is the sharing and co-creation, which is all related to the sectors that you are in. Gamification, big data, software as a service are the types of different business models that we are seeing. As a result of these business models are changing, we see the next circle is where the industries are. So what is happening with these industries is that all of these industries are beginning to converge and connect. You have a theme related to connect for 2019. So this is practically what we are seeing around the world, where convergence and connectivity seems to be buzzing theme within this particular industry. And the whole thing is facilitated by an industry ecosystem which includes government agencies, evangelists, corporates, R&D institutions, technology transfer offices, which continue to invest in this particular space in producing what we all now know as disruptive innovations. So this particular framework, like a kaleidoscope, when twisted in different directions, gives you different options. So if you look up at healthcare, for example, as an area of focus, people want zero breach in security, right? So how does it actually address? The ICT technology provides the backbone support to it. Innovating to zero is the concept. End users are benefiting out of it. So when we have this particular concept, we can start to produce goods and services related to meet the potential challenges that we are all talking about. So when this kaleidoscope goes into different formats or different directions, you have newer ideas and newer processes and policies that are likely to shape up your future. Now that said, let me tell you of some innovations that have quietly become a part of our life. We are all living in the area or in the era of X-Tech, everything and technology. Do we all agree here? I'm sure 90% or 100% of us agree about it. What are the different types of technologies that we are talking in the X-Tech space? We're talking about fintech, blockchain, etc., whatever it is. We're talking about agricultural tech, right? We're talking about smart agriculture. We're talking about edu tech, educational technology. So the whole world is in the era of X-Tech, which is emerging tech-driven disruptions, innovating and fueling new business models. Now, what you see here are some of the examples of innovations that were coming up about 4 or 5 years ago. Drones are no longer considered for applications related to military. More and more, it's being used for peaceful purposes. It could include monitoring an agricultural field. It could include for predicting the weather patterns in a particular place. Very soon, there are cases of examples where drones have been used to transport organs from one facility to another facility. So what is the impact that it can have? It can potentially have an impact in the logistics business in the future once we get the recommendations to have it approved to fly in a certain zone. So the logistics industry is likely to be the next target for drones to be used, and already Amazon is using some of these applications or trying out these applications within a certain area. What is real related to the mobility space that you are in is the autonomous cars. And I see that there is a focus heavily at Hyundai to have your efforts towards this particular development. In 2014 itself, we've seen demonstrations of autonomous cars going all the way from Palo Alto in California to the CES show in Vegas, all by itself in autonomous cars. So we see that particular trend actually shaping up quite a bit in the future as well. Although in India, at the moment, the government hasn't come out with any proposal for autonomous cars. I can tell you that there are over 10 companies in India that are actually developing autonomous solutions, predominantly to be used for Indian conditions. And once the government approves it, you can find a lot of these in some critical application areas. One of them is related to logistics within a particular plant. I'm not sure, but you might have heard there is a company in Bangalore called ATI Technologies, ATI, ATI Technologies, that is developing an electric vehicle, autonomous vehicle that will be able to be used within a shop floor to move materials from one place to another. So this is a transforming development that is happening within this particular space. And like I said, there are at least about 10 companies in India at the moment that are working on these solutions. And as a result, we also see major car manufacturers around the world seem to have got into this and are producing products. And we believe by 2035, there will be at least about 12 million such autonomous vehicles that are likely to hit the road globally. That said, many of you might have heard about the Khan Academy. It's an old story now, but they have revolutionized the education business, right? It hasn't been more simpler than what we are seeing now of having access to every grade in terms of information and asking for on-demand kind of applications related to learning and development. SpaceX, we all know about the reusable rocket technology that they have developed. But more importantly, SpaceX has been given the permits by NASA to open up areas of space tourism. So potentially 10 years down the line, we could have people going to space as tourists through this particular program. Uber and other services have revolutionized the sharing business, and Airbnb has revolutionized the hotel businesses around the world. One important concept, I don't know if many of you know about it, but the latest that you see here is LaaS, Light as a Service. Philips has already developed this particular product and is in commercial use in some regions in the US, where they are able to predict the patterns of usage of light and how that can be replaced. So we don't have to go to a shop. They are monitored constantly in the factory. They decide that if it has burned a certain hours, they send the force to replace it. So light is also becoming a service. So these are the types of innovations that have happened that is fueling a complete change in the way we do business. So that said, what I'm now going to show you is some interesting development of top technologies that Frost & Sullivan has identified that is likely to have an impact in the next 2 to 4 years. These are technologies, gentlemen, that you all need to watch out for. These are the technologies that you all need to invest your time, effort, and might into for developing successful solutions. And that is what you see in this particular slide. So across the 9 technology clusters, we have identified the top 50 technologies that are likely to have an impact on the economy and the industry. And what you see here that's marked in yellow are the ones that have a direct impact on the mobility sector. So you need to look up in the advanced manufacturing space, cognitive manufacturing, collaborative robots, hybrid manufacturing, metal 3D printing, nanofabrication. We saw an increased emphasis on Industry 4.0. So we have technologies like 5G, haptic reality, cognitive security, small data. And the focus is more going towards renewables. So we are looking up at advanced battery technology from an energy point, super fuel cells, etc. And on the material side, we are looking up at lightweighting as a lot of trend that's happening, self-healing materials, super engineered polymers, ultra high strength metals, and in the electronic space, AI chips. The integration of AI chips to predict the failure of a component is becoming increasingly considered that could be included in the dashboard of the future cars. So these are the technological changes that we are seeing that is revolutionizing the world. Now, there are many important signals that you can take out of this. One is there is a lot of opportunities for these technologies within the realm of their own technology clusters. But the second one, like we are all talking about in terms of the theme, is that the potential probability of convergence between these technologies. How could collaborative robots, for instance, work when AI chip is integrated into it and it has a LiDAR sensor associated with it? So we are seeing the mergers of different industries coming together to what we call as a serendipitous solution that is coming and hitting all of us. That said, all of us will have to constantly look up at technology trends and developments related to all of these areas and keep tabs on how these could be integrated within your equipment, within your manufacturing processes to provide what we now need is a customer experience. What is it that we are selling now? A customer experience. We need better and better innovations and products that helps the end user to benefit out of it in terms of safety, in terms of ergonomics, in terms of whatever considerations the demands of the next generation are on. That said, between these technologies, almost about 280,000 patents have been filed and applied. Very important, guys. When there is so much of patent activities happening, it shows that these technologies are quite critical for the future. Second, they have received, in the 14-month period that we did this research, almost about $120 billion in investment, in funding related to these areas. And being in the business of technology forecast and market research that we are in, we see during a 5-year potential the probable minimalistic revenues that these technologies can generate is almost about $980 billion. Can you imagine? That is the opportunity that you all have related to all of these technologies. And the main driver to take these technologies to make it in the marketplace as a common forum is in the mobility sector. And I'm sure many of you can relate to it, but we do have in-depth information related to each of these areas. But for want of time, I will not be able to go into each of these technologies, but many of these assessments about this are available on Google, or if you go to frost.com, you will be able to find a perspective associated to what we are saying related to these technologies. Now, one important thing that I said during the beginning is related to connectivity and convergence. Now, we do a lot of exercise to see how these technologies can potentially converge to form a solution for the future, which is what I would like to share with you in my next two slides to tell what is the idea that we have gathered related to this and how this could impact in the future. So the first one that you see here is what we call as the I-mobility or intelligent mobility. Now here we envisage a future where a transport ecosystem which will involve autonomous vehicles running on smart roads. When we say running on smart roads, we are talking about roads that are built with self-healing materials embedded with wireless charging systems to power up the electric vehicles of the future. The ecosystem, which will comprise of whatever that you see here related to smart sensors, hybrid cloud, electric vehicles fitted with ADAS technologies, small data for processing to identify that particular customer experience. So the vehicles on the move will be charged in the future. So this is a potential idea that could be taken for the R&D to envisage this particular probable applications in the future. It is probable today, but in 5 years down the line, it could be a reality. There could already be some test beds that have already started to implement this. So I-mobility is one of the convergence that we are predicting is likely to have a very big impact. The second one, of course, is on autonomous drive connection. Now I know I do a lot of work in Korea as well. I know BCI, brain-computer interface and artificial intelligence, is an extremely important focus area in almost all the research institutes that I visit, whether it's KIST or any of the other universities in Korea, including, of course, many companies like yourselves that are investing heavily in brain-computer interface. Now, here we are envisaging a situation where the driver in the autonomous, as the car is filled with autonomous solutions, should an event occur to the driver, sensors and other controls within the car will be able to take the vehicle an autonomous drive feature enabled in it to safety and transmit data to the nearest care provider that will be able to immediately address that particular problem. So we see that brain signal patterns can be captured in the computer, in the brain-computer interface, and wearables that we all wear at the moment will be able to look up at the ECG signals related to it. And probably this will address many issues, including traffic violations and other things that we see that can be reduced associated with this. So the probability of traffic, rule violation and accidents can be reduced. So we urge the mobility manufacturers to start looking up at these areas that could potentially find a solution and thereby have an edge over competition associated with this particular space. So there is a lot of such scenarios that we have built. We've built over 100 such scenarios for different industries. And I'm sure all of these applications are likely to have an impact in the mobility sector. Now that said, let me now take you on to an important area. Right, I've covered a lot about technologies, but now I would like to connect with you about what the Megatrends universe is all about. You all need to be having a tab on these trends. Only when we have a tag on these trends, we will be able to come out with novel solutions that are likely to be faced by us in the future. So, connectivity and convergence. We are talking of an ecosystem. By 2025, there will be at least 120 billion devices connected. So, when so many devices are connected, what is the solution that we have to mitigate the challenges that we are facing now? We need to look up at newer business models. We are going to look up at a spurt in growth of multiple areas. So each of those areas offer an opportunity for us. We are also entering into the era of cognitive learning. A lot of machine-to-machine based learning and artificial intelligence is already going into it. We are able to identify a lot of patterns as a result of it. So to look up and develop neuromorphic computing that almost mimics the human brain for it to take an action. We all know about this concept called bricks and clicks, right? Many of us are aware of it. Amazon Go has already started its first shop in Seattle that allows us to have a user experience. We just go in, pick up the goods, scan it with our phone, and automatically it determines what is it that we have bought. It alerts the logistics department. They come, use autonomous robots, fetch the goods, and then go and supply it to the address where it's registered. So we are seeing developments related to bricks and clicks that's changing a user experience visiting a retail outlet. Smart is the new green, almost sensorization of every product is happening, so more and more green products are becoming smarter and smarter. We're looking up at new business models, co-creation, circular economy, right? We're looking up at how the world is developing over a circular economy associated with personalization and customization, as well as value for many. It's not value for money, it's value for many. Right? Health, wellness and well-being. No more are we going to be focusing much on treatment, but we are going to focus more on therapy, on wellness to prevent an occurrence of a particular condition. The gene editing is a very important area of focus that is already being researched within this particular space. Innovating to zero, I've already explained about it, but we are also looking up at economic trends. Beyond the BRIC nations, what are the new countries? Argentina, Vietnam, there are so many other, Africa, right? North Africa, there are many countries there where you have a lot of developments that you are seeing. Urbanization, like I said, city is soon becoming a customer, an economic hotspot. Infrastructure development, again quite important, related to it. Deep sea mining, future of water infrastructure are covered in it. And energy, since we are all going from fossil fuel based energy to renewables, we see a lot of development that is happening, and we are also seeing a smarter infrastructure in terms of smart grids related to each of this. So finally, what is the future of mobility? Is micro-mobility, autonomous cars, telematics-based insurance, car sharing, connected cars, and integrated mobility. So we are looking up at these trends are taking shape across these mega trends that we have identified. That said, now let's cover about how these are actually impacting the macroeconomic factors on the Indian automotive sector. So we are looking up at the number of aspirers to increase from 15 to 20% by 2025. Who are the aspirers? Aspirers are people that are earning between $7,500 to $15,000 annually. And we are also looking up at the population of the affluent increasing from 6 to 11%, that is people who earn beyond $15,500 to $25,000, who have the ability to spend, to invest in new cars for the future. So the see this particular population is likely to mobilize and increase. Improving urban infrastructure, the Indian government within the urban sector has earmarked FDIs to the tune of $31.5 billion. So we are going to see a lot of spur in activities related to bridges, flyovers, roads, port development related to this particular urban infrastructure investment. Now, amongst the rising youth population, India is likely to have almost 18% of its population by 2020 between the age group of 16 to 24. It's going to be a very, very high number, and the demands of these Gen Y people are mainly related to sharing economy, and that is going to further popularize the sharing infrastructure that we have, such as Uber, Ola, and other service providers that are into this particular market. We're also looking up at efficient exports, and I'll cover about that in the slides to follow, about what the government has done related to it that has eased doing business in India. Some of the benefits that we see might also arise as a result of the trade war that we are currently seeing between the US and Korea. It is likely to have an impact on manufacturing of automotives and small parts, and India is likely to benefit, considering that we are a bit stable and insulated from that particular trade war, simply because our volumes of business is not as big as that of China. We don't know about Brexit yet. In 2 weeks' time, there is going to be a voting to decide whether they are going to continue for 2 years as they are now, or they are going to have some change. Because if there is a change, then we have an issue to deal with in Northern Ireland that is already putting up its hand to say that it doesn't agree with it. So we really don't know about it. But potentially, for India to have trade relationship with UK, it is not going to hamper, even if Brexit actually happens. Cause of worry in India is, of course, obviously related to the interest rate. In 2019, we see that access to funds might not be as easy as it was in the past. There are several reasons for it, and I'll explain about those in the slides to follow. And one thing we all can't talk or predict much about is the possibility of a coalition government that might come into play in 2019. We don't know about it. But the macroeconomic perspectives overall is 7 out of 10, which is pretty good in terms of investment that is happening within India, and in terms of your own business strategy plans for 2019 related to this particular space. Now, in the long run, India definitely is going to have a very, very strong growth amidst global slowdown. The global slowdown is mainly manifested by the trade wars that is currently happening. We definitely see that it is going to impact many of the developed economies like both Germany as well as Japan as a result of this. And in this particular slide, you see the expected GDP growth rate of these large economies, over 40 billion or so, and what is actually forecasted in 2019. India will be at about 7%. It was 7.2 last year, but we expect that it is still amongst the top in terms of growth for 2019. Now in this, one of the key things that we have to factor are three major events that is likely to have a significant impact in 2019. So based on that, you can decide your investment in R&D, in production, or whatever it is. First is, of course, like I briefly covered, it's the impending general elections. Generally, there is a spurt of investment that happens before the elections, and depending on what the results are, it could have a direct effect on the economy. Like we are already seeing, the current government has been voted out in 3 large states, and the discussion about farm loan waiver is already happening, right? That is going to stress the banks a little bit. Two is, we expect the global oil prices to continue to hover within reasonable limits. Gone are the days that we are talking that oil will go to $100. In October 2018, some analyst in Dalal Street, Mumbai, predicted it's going to go to $100 and everybody were having a laugh at it. We predict that it is going to be pretty stable, despite US and Russia pumping in more oil related to in 2019. We still believe that OPEC will continue to have a clout, and we are largely insulated of very big variations that might happen. And the government has also signed a lot of agreements. In fact, recently they signed an agreement of currency swap with Japan. So that is likely to ensure the economy is going to be stable in India. The last, of course, is a key factor that we all have to worry about is the burden on defaulted loans that have been taken. It's not created a very good scenario. And now the RBI is tightening the norms with all the banks. So the bankers are reluctant to actually lend. So that is causing a little bit of credit squeeze that might affect the economy. But otherwise, India is supposed to have a sustained and strong growth amidst whatever global slowdown that we are seeing. And this is based on analysis and reports that we have done. That said, let me now take you on to an important facet that we saw associated with this, which is the rank that India has that's come from the World Bank study of doing business in India. So if you see over a period from 2015, our ranks have only progressed associated with this. So what has actually kind of facilitated this move in the past is something that we all have to pay attention. Construction permits have been a little more easier to get. And trading across borders, starting with the business and getting credit were all the parameters that we studied. We've also come up with the National Trade Facilitation Action Plan for 2017-20 that improves efficiency and cross-border trade. So it reduces a lot of documentary compliance that we are all seeing. Many governments have begun to operate more efficiently, right? A neighboring state, both Andhra and Telangana, are offering a single window scheme and approvals that can happen within 15 days. Tamil Nadu has a scheme that allows industries from the time the proposal is submitted to the time the approvals are got for 30 days. So within 30 days, if the approvals are not given by the government, it becomes fine for companies to start investing in this. So we don't need to wait for further clearances from any agency. So they are tightening the norms. Global Investors Meet here is going to almost generate about 25,000 crores of potential investment here that's going to happen in 2 weeks down the line. So we see a lot of changes that are happening within India that is facilitating India's ease of doing business from what it was at 150 in 2014 to 77 that we are in 2019. But biggest change that has happened in terms of tax reforms is the GST, right? I know companies like yours in the past would have to file a dozen forms. There would be a dozen taxes that are excise duty and so many other things. Now, all of that have gone. We just have this particular ethos of one nation, one tax. So what did this one nation do the moment GST was implemented? And for the first time, just for your own reference, the government was ready to implement GST, whereas the private sector requested for more time. This has never happened in the history of our country since independence. This is the first time the government was ready to implement it. It was the private sector that sought more time. As a result, we began opening up the GST from July 1st, 2017 onwards. What it has done is it has reduced the cascading effect of taxes. It has simplified the complete processes. Most importantly, the one nation concept has immediately removed all the checkposts that were there. It used to take 16 days for cargo to move from Delhi to Mumbai port. All of you here, if you know that. And it used to take 2 or 3 days in Delhi to cross the border. And then, after the 16th day, to enter into the Mumbai port, it would take another 3 days. So that was the lag with which we were working. Now, with the removal of checkposts, it is a single tax. It takes 3 days for goods from anywhere of India to go to any place without the hassle of long queues on the road. So this is quite revolutionary. That is actually propelling where we are today. And we hope that this is likely to continue whichever government comes into play in the elections that are going to happen in May. That said, I'm not sure much about this free trade agreement outlook, but we believe that if India can go with this proposed trade pact that we have on with some of the countries in the ASEAN space, it is going to help facilitate, generate a lot of USD revenues into the Indian economy as a result of people going and working across all of these areas, all of these countries that we are mentioning here. Predominantly, we are looking up at investments that are related to pharmaceutical, agriculture, manufacturing, almost many of the important areas associated with this. That said, let me just take you to what is the mobility trends in India that we all have to keep a tab on. The share of Indian railways per capita is going to rise from 6,000 kilometers in 2010 to 26,000 by 2050. India will become the largest aviation market, at least the third largest aviation market by 2020. We expect almost about 360 million travelers around the world. The global economy, of course, is kind of pushing with a lot of investments related to what the government of India is looking into. 8,000 kilometers of pavements and almost an investment of 12 billion that reduces carbon footprint. We are targeting, according to the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan, the deployment of 5 to 7 million electric vehicles in the country. You've already seen that the government has placed order for 10,000 electric vehicles related to it. We also see a spur in India's car market that is going to grow to 6 billion from the current 1.7 million in 2016. So by 2020, we see a lot of development that is happening. And the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan is targeting at least about 400,000 passenger vehicles by 2020. So all of this kind of looks good, especially as you strategize your plan for 2019 and future to build the mobility trends within India to take it to the next generation across a gamut of areas related to railways, aviation, passenger vehicles, electric infrastructure, energy, and infrastructure related to road, rail, transportation spaces. That said, I would like to kind of draw your attention on this particular slide. I mentioned about this in my earlier short note. In 2016, mainly the Middle East, Saudi was pumping in a lot of oil, and to the extent that almost all the oil wells were full, and there was absolutely no way that they could pump more. So that brought down the price to its lowest level in 2016. Like I said, despite Russia as well as US pumping large oil, and probably we might have an impact of shale if the US continues to pump that, OPEC will still have its say on the oil price and is going to pursue some production cuts. We believe that in 2019, oil prices will remain between $55 and $65. So 62.3 is what our forecast is related to the oil price. And that I just inserted this slide because it has a direct impact on the business that we are talking about. Now, in terms of India's macroeconomic, whether it's the right time to ride the wave. Yes, indeed, 7.2% growth in GDP in 2018-19, likely to come to 7% because of interest issues. A very large labor workforce, 534 million, is a pretty big one. Only thing that we have to invest in the government is keen to focus on this is on the skilling of these workforces. A lot of this has happened. We've added, you see, a big population of 150 million more middle class that can be added. Potentially it's getting added. It's a very small percentage of increase in tax base, but the GST has had a revolutionary effect on our collections as a result of more people getting into the income tax slabs. The Jan Dhan scheme, which is primarily the opening of account for the people that did not have bank accounts, almost about 241 million accounts were opened associated with it. In 2015, of course, if people in Chennai will remember that we had this massive floods that engulfed many parts of the city, and at that particular point, the first online transfer to the beneficiaries of rupees 5,000 each was done on all the account holders who had this Jan Dhan, and that was the first time the government was able to do it within 24 hours, reducing absolutely any paperwork, and more importantly, absolutely no corruption involved in it. So that is something that we can all be proud of. It's very good to have that kind of system. So the banking sector, in the first few days itself, had almost about $11.5 billion of cash that went to the bank. And of course, the demonetization also had an effect on it in bank accounts surging with cash. So we expect the average age in India in 2018 is going to be 28 years. So it's going to be a very productive kind of youthful workforce that we see. Probably, perhaps one of the youngest nations with an economy of over 40 billion in terms of GDP. 34.3% in terms of urbanization. We expect globally almost about 58% of the rural people are likely to get to economic hotspots. Literacy rate, the government is aiming for a 99% literacy rate by 2025. It is difficult, but might happen on the social side. On the political side, almost about 1,000 RTL laws have been repealed that we all know, right? That has enhanced the ease of doing business related to whatever we do. And the only factor that is of concern is the weak coalition, is the political transformation, as we call it. If there is any issue related to politics, then we might have to take a pause and see where exactly we are. That said, emerging opportunities for Hyundai, right? So this is a fortune wheel that I have designed. So any color, you have an option to invest in any of these areas, right? Whether it's if it's red, it's sensor fusion, smart sensors. If it's pink, 3D printing technologies. Blue, it's BCI technology. So basically, the fortune wheels are looking very good for you. And if you look up at spinning related to any of these areas, there is an opportunity that is there for all of you. With that, I'd like to conclude my presentation, and I thank you all again and congratulate you for a great performance in 2018 and wish you the very best for a superlative year in 2019. Thank you.